Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be decoding the ancient, incredibly diverse histories hiding right in plain sight, literally inside the surnames we use every single day. You know, whether you realize it or not, every single time you introduce yourself, you're basically broadcasting a microscopic history lesson.
So let's dive right into this with a pretty simple question. Do you actually know what the label you've carried your entire life literally means? I mean, for most of us, our last name is just this static label. But if we trace these words back to their origins, they reveal some absolutely incredible stories about exactly how our ancestors organized their families, their entire societies, and really their relationship to the world around them. To unlock these codes, we've got to look at one fundamental word, and that's patronymics. Now, it sounds super fancy, but it just means that a massive portion of the world's last names simply translate to son of. Think about it. When societies grew way too large for everyone to just go by a single first name, the absolute easiest way to identify someone was just to link them directly to their father. And it is wild to see how incredibly diverse cultures all across Europe developed the exact same system. The Irish and Scottish, they used Mac or Mick in Gaelic. Scandinavians literally just slapped son or sen right at the end of a name. The Italian, D or D, kind of like the Dutch fawn, just meant from or of. Then you've got the French Normans bringing Fitz over to the British Isles. And in Germany, just adding an S to the end of a name, like in Peter's, well, that simply showed possession, belonging to Peter. Now, what's really crazy here is that fixed family names like Fitzgerald or Erickson, they weren't always permanent family brands. They actually started out as just literal, temporary tags for that specific generation. So, say a guy named Gerald had a son. The community would simply call that kid son of Gerald or Fitzgerald. It was only over time that these literal descriptions kind of froze in place into the permanent surnames that we recognize today.
Moving on to Section 1, Ancient Extremes, the Roman Code.
So, long before modern Europe froze their patronymics, the Romans were doing something vastly more elaborate. Actually, in Rome, there were no surnames as we know them today at all. Instead, upper-class male citizens were legally required to carry this highly specific naming structure, and it was used to identify their exact placement in society. Literally, your name was your resume, your citizenship paper, and your family tree, all rolled into one package.
Let's deconstruct the most famous Roman of all, Julius Caesar, into this exact system. It was called the trianomina. First up, you had the pronomen, which was his personal name, Gaius. And believe it or not, Romans were incredibly uncreative here. There were literally only about 18 of these first names in existence. Next was the nomen, Julius. This represented the massive clan that shared a common ancestor. And finally, the cognomen, Caesar. This actually started out as just a physical trait or a nickname. For instance, Caesar likely just meant thick hair. But it eventually evolved to identify a highly specific branch within that massive Julius clan.
But we have to note, this system was incredibly rigid and completely unequal. While men proudly displayed this complex lineage, they'd even insert abbreviations like CF just to legally prove they were the son of Gaius. Women, on the other hand, lacked proper personal names entirely. A woman simply took the feminine version of her father's clan name. So Caesar's daughter, she was just Julia. If he had a second daughter, she was simply Julia Secunda. And enslaved people, they had only one name, and upon being freed, they would just take the first in clan names of their former enslaver. All right, let's jump into Section 2, the global flip, Arab lineage to Asian landscapes. So, when the Roman Empire collapsed, so did their naming systems. But over in the Arab world, they stretched that son of concept to its absolute limits. The traditional Arab system is perhaps the purest patronymic system in the world. See, instead of freezing a last name, they link generations together through these chains, using the word bin or ben, which means son of. So a name like Ahmad bin Hassan bin Ali translates perfectly to Ahmad, son of Hassan, son of Ali. You are literally carrying the names of your father and your grandfather simultaneously. It proudly displays a continuous living chain of ancestry.
Conversely, places like China and Korea completely reject this individualistic son of model. In these cultures, the clan name comes absolutely first in the sentence structure. It's a really profound philosophical difference, right? It signifies that the family, the collective, and the ancestral origin are all far more important than the individual. For example, in the name Kim Jong-un, Kim is the ancient clan name, and because it comes first, it grounds the individual firmly within that collective family unit.
Meanwhile, Japan took a wholly unique route. Get this, up until the late 19th century, most commoners in Japan
didn't even use surnames at all. So when the government suddenly required them to register a family name, they didn't look to their fathers or grandfathers. Nope. Instead, they looked at the physical landscape right outside their windows. Yamamoto literally means the base of the mountain. Tanaka translates to in the middle of the rice fields, and Nakamura means inside the village. Their names basically became these permanent snapshots of exactly where their ancestors were standing in that specific historical moment.
Which brings us to Section 3, the modern anomaly, Iceland.
There is one modern country that stubbornly holds on to a tradition that the rest of Europe just abandoned centuries ago. Astonishingly, about 90% of the population in Iceland completely ignores fixed family surnames. If you were to travel to Iceland today, you'd find a naming system operating almost exactly as it did 1,000 years ago.
Let's actually look at this pure patronymic system in action by tracing a standard family. So let's say a father is named Jón Einarsson, which means Jón, son of Einar. Now, he has a son named Olafur, but the son's last name is not Einarsson. No, he takes his father's first name Jón and adds son, becoming Olafur Jónsson. Now, if Jón has a daughter named Sigríður, she adds dóttir, meaning daughter, becoming Sigríður Jónsdóttir. The surname physically morphs with every single generation. Just think about how wild this is for a second. A standard Icelandic family does not share a single surname under one roof. The father, the mother, the son, and the daughter will all have entirely different legal last names. The name Jónsson literally dies with Olafur, and his future children will have to construct a brand new surname based entirely on his first name. Naturally, this creates some of the most fascinating cultural quirks on the planet. For starters, women never change their last names when they get married because, well, it wouldn't make any sense to suddenly claim you're the daughter of your husband's father. And since last names change so often, the National Phone Book and official registries, they're actually alphabetized by first names. Furthermore, everyone, and I mean everyone, including the Prime Minister and the President, is addressed by their first name. Can you imagine how grammatically absurd it would sound to call a politician Mr. Son of Jakob? They also completely embrace matronymics, which are names derived from the mother. And they even have a strict government naming committee to make sure every new first name can properly attach a son or daughter without breaking the grammar of the Icelandic language.
So from the rigid legal clans of ancient Rome, to the poetic geographic snapshots of Japan, all the way to the morphing generational tags of Iceland, our names are basically living artifacts. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of a challenge today. Don't just accept the label you've carried your whole life. Go dig into your own family tree. What ancient forgotten secret is hiding in plain sight inside your very own last name? Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and hey, happy hunting out there!